one of us went to Magic Round. The sound of our voice. I'm fine.
I feel good too.
I feel good too.
Terrific,
Fresh.
actually.
Talk a bit more, Michael Chammas.
Mate, don't be like that, okay?
How
It's got
dusty
nothing
are
to
you?
do. It's got nothing to do with what I got up to in Magic Round. Absolutely zero.
Actually, you go on tour, you always get sick.
I've been good for a while.
Always get sick.
Yeah,
Actually, in Vegas, you're okay.
I was good in Vegas. I've had a few tours since. I do have a reputation. There's an NTA on me at work, never to tour again. But I soldier on. I get the job done.
Oh,
I can't say I did a good job
Soldier
over
on.
there.
Listen
did
here.
you follow your arm?
Oh, don't be like that, honestly. Did you even
Chammy.
come? You didn't even bother turning up. The disrespect that you show the game on a regular basis.
I've got about 25 days away from home coming up with Origin. That's enough time away from
Oh,
home.
you're going to do the camps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go into camp.
Yeah, okay. Good on you.
Yeah, I like doing that.
Righto. Best bit of gosh you got from there. Come on.
Goss? I don't really have goss. Honestly, it was uneventful.
Well, you didn't talk to anyone.
I ended up on a rooftop one night. It was that uneventful. I ended up on
Like
a
in The
rooftop
Hangover.
one night playing Shoot, Shag, Marry with some randoms from Clubland.
Okay.
That's how eventful it was.
Fair enough.
Wow.
Some of the names I won't go into.
Wild rugby
Wow.
league tour it was.
No, it was pretty uneventful, to be honest, lads. Some things will stay between me and my mind.
I did hear some things about you up there.
What?
Massive amount of selfies you're taking
Oh,
with the fans.
Please.
Videos.
Here we go.
I think there's evidence.
Here we go.
I believe there's evidence that
Here we
you
go.
couldn't walk a step down Caxton Street without being mobbed.
Spotted.
Spotted.
Yeah.
Spotted.
Yeah. Danny's going to introduce Spotted in his column as well.
Spotted
Look. Look, there weren't any Tigers fans, so yes, I had some people say hello to me. I didn't have a single Tigers fan say hello, which is good.
Did you cop any grief from Tigers fans?
No,
They're
actually,
still a bit
do you know
rolled
what?
up.
Do you know
I've been
what?
copping
I
it.
actually, as much as we cop on social media, I don't know about Danny, but I've never actually been abused in public.
I have.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I copped on the way, actually, went to the toilet on the plane. I was walking back to my seat, and some bloke yelled out, "How was Turkey?"
Yes.
Yeah. Were you on the plane?
I didn't go to Turkey, Jim.
The best though has to be
That was Turkey.
I turned around to see who it was, but I couldn't see who yelled.
Wilder at 3:00 in the morning in Bondi copping a nice cat.
Yeah, I get that. How's your cat?
The catwalker. So seriously, uneventful because it looked like it was. And I talked to James Graham, Wade Graham on Monday, and
Yeah.
they were a little under the weather.
Yeah.
It looked like
That's
it was
not my
a
go, though. You know that.
big tour.
The Chammy's clean living,
No.
despite the sound and look of him.
I had
Yeah,
one
it's
vodka
clean.
lemonade because someone forced me to, and that was
He
it.
actually had a drink.
I sipped it and then put it back down while they were
You
looking.
got the antennas up, don't you? Though.
No, it's not about that. It's just I don't like the taste. I'm a bit of a pansy.
Yeah.
All right. So if I'm going to drink, I'll just have shots quickly, like I did at T-Pain in Vegas, and get
As
to
you
that
do.
and get to that feeling
And then
without
he,
having
fell
to
off
taste
the,
it.
then he fell off a chair the next day when I was with him.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
What?
You fell off the chair in the hotel foyer. I was sitting with you and you fell off the chair.
What? Just sitting there and fell off.
Yes, you
That's a
did.
lie I've ever heard. Mate.
I was there. I'm not lying.
Well, one thing you did cop in commentary was a bit of grief from Broncos legend Shane Webke about the Olympics.
Yeah, I was actually over in Paris watching the rugby sevens, and Marky Mark barely got on the field over there because he's been a revelation.
Come on,
Can we not the whole France thing?
You like that? I just name dropped.
Really? You're a sideline commentator, mate. That's too much.
I'm cultured.
Too much.
I'm cultured.
It's just too much. What was he over there watching? Rugby union.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yet what are we doing here? Oh, rugby league. That's right.
Well, I'm going to come to your defence here that it sounds like Shane Webke doesn't have a passport, has never left Australia. So I'm with you, Chammy, in
Mate,
that regard.
I'm just giving the listeners some context to
Yes.
what I'm talking about. I was sat there in Paris at the Stade de France.
So it bleeds into our
like
first
that.
topic that we want to talk about because Marky Mark, who you mentioned there, who I can't quite work out why everyone's going, wow, how good's this guy? Like, the guy was dynamite. Like, look outside your bubble and you'll realise the guy's dynamite. It was going to, he's a quick learner, good player, good person.
Yeah.
He's got to speed, which means now that Dom Young has been told by the Roosters, it feels like, guys, that the Roosters were like, with their new recruit, we'll just make sure that he's okay. And then we've got to this stage, oh, look, don't think we're going to need Dom Young anytime soon.
It's something we broke on 100% on the other night. And at that stage, I was hearing suggestions that Newcastle could get him straight away. and the Knights have been monitoring it for at least a couple of weeks, I think. I don't know if they've been waiting for better players to emerge or not. I just think if you look at what he's been doing on the field, the Roosters see some. That's not a personality thing. It's just they see some defensive issues with him that they don't seem to be able to correct. And I think it was Dom Young who went for the intercept on the Latrell pass in that game from memory when
The South game.
when
Yeah.
Souths
Yep.
beat the Roosters, and losing to South doesn't go down very well with
No.
certain people at that club. That may have been the final straw when it was, again, just a defensive decision that didn't work. And he's got all the talent. He's got the physical attributes. He's got the speed. He's a demon with the ball. Maybe not. I think if you speak to the Roosters, the way he's been carrying the ball out of their end doesn't necessarily thrill them. Plus his defence, and he's on big money. Like they went hard at trying to sign him. And I know that Souths looked at him pretty closely. I think he went for a meeting with. When Sam Burgess was still at the club, and there was a meeting with the art dealer who helps fund South Sydney or helps direct players towards South Sydney.
Art
or something.
Vanderlei.
No, his
What his
name's
name is?
Steve Nesteski.
Okay. The art dealer.
Yeah, the art dealer he's known as.
Rugby
the
league
one
as an
behind-
art dealer.
He's the one behind Suwali. Remember
Yeah,
all those?
he bought
So
Joseph Suali'i to the Rabbitohs and helped him as a junior, and he was also after Dom Young. So there was interest from Souths, but when the Roosters heard all that, they pounced, paid
Yep.
big money for him, and he scored tries for them. And like, I don't think it's like
It's 25 and 29 or something like
it's
that.
not terrible, but I think it's his defensive stuff. I mean, unless you've heard more, Chammy, I don't know if it's. I don't think it's more than that.
Look, I don't think he's quite fit in at the Roosters either. I think he's found it difficult to fit in off the field as well. I rang his manager about 6 weeks ago and I said, Matt, I heard that they're not sold on him and that they're probably going to ask him to leave at some point. And the manager's like, no, it's not the case. Just had his family over. We had dinner with Robbo. They love him, but what I was hearing in the background wasn't reflective of what he was telling me. But we left it alone, and then here we are now, 6 weeks later, and
So
looks
is
like
this-
he's on his way out.
They also signed his brother. Remember?
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
I think Alex Young is his name, and he had no huge background as a rugby league player. Like he had some, obviously, but not a huge, not in terms of like where Dom was at.
This is another one of the Roosters of this whole.
Well, let's run through them.
They just don't get
Brandon
got right.
Brandon in and out sort of thing. Like again, they were signed him on big money.
Yeah,
Hasn't worked.
they went after Fifita. They got him.
Flipped.
Lucky they didn't get him in the end.
What other ones are they?
They sent Terrell May packing.
That's the really interesting one still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Considering how well he's been going.
Yeah,
And
Dom Young now.
however, look, let's give them some credit. The Roosters have got a lot of good young players coming through, and more than I thought. And the impact that these young guys are having now, and further beneath them as well. I think they just won. Was it the SG Ball Champion?
I watched the highlights of young
Toby Rodwell.
He was
who's,
very good. Very good.
Yeah, was
So
outstanding.
SG Ball is under 19s.
SG Ball is 19s, yes, now.
Yeah.
And that's
Jersey Flex 21.
the Roosters, the strongest junior team in the comp. All of a sudden, yeah.
So, which lends you to the obvious path of exactly why they're getting a 36-year-old halfback from Manly. But the Dom Young one, is that linked? Is it just a cap management scenario where they think, well, okay, we're doubled up in that position. Do we really need to do it? We've got to free a bit of cap space because DC is coming to
I
Bondi.
don't think they're related. Danny touched on it on 100% Footy on Monday night. There was talk about Daniel Tupou being let go in his final year next year, and he was looking at rugby union clubs.
Japan.
Yeah, overseas, Japanese rugby. I think that the Roosters then made a decision that we'll keep Tupou for another year. And it's probably best to let Dominic Young go now, because if you sell him mid-season, you're more likely to let a rival club feel like they're getting a bargain because you've paid for a lot of their salary. Where if you wait till the end of the year, clubs know his big salary. They also know why would we pay him in November when we can just get him in February or at the end of January. So you end up paying him a few months you don't want to. I think the Roosters made the decision, you know what, let's cut the cord. If you find something, you can go now. And we keep Tupou here for 12 months.
2.5 more years.
that he has on his deal?
Yeah, I think it might be.
Good question. I actually didn't look at that.
Yeah,
Come on, GM.
Like I think.
Sorry,
Get
I'm a
up to
bit
speed.
off the pace, you know.
Yeah.
I actually think he's got a long time still left on his contract, and he's on probably 500 or so. So it's a you can see why the Roosters are nervous about it all.
So on Brandon Smith, while we're recording right now, we've had it be known that he's leaving the club. He's leaving the Roosters, and he's not going to play first grade under Trent Robinson, it looks like, anytime soon at Bondi. As we sit here right now, we don't know exactly where Brandon Smith's going.
He's going to South, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
Well,
signed for South next year.
He's signed for South next year, but
Yeah.
this year we don't know exactly where he's going. Could he do a Tavita Pangai Jr. and go to a holding place like he did when he
it
bounced
doesn't sound
around?
like
or-
it. I think the story's just come out at the moment. Phil Rothfield's reporting that he's played his last game at the club. Made some calls just before we got in. Sounds like the Roosters have told his manager that they're happy for him to leave immediately, and if he stays, that he's unlikely to feature in their plans in first grade. So
None of this is a surprise.
no, it was always
Like-
brewing. It was just a timing thing, right?
it
So
was always going to be a matter of when, not if.
I spoke to Blake Solly, the South Sydney CEO, yesterday, and he said to me that obviously they wanted him before June 30, but nothing had happened in the last 24 hours. So something must have moved pretty quickly for that to
Well,
happen.
Has South's injury concerns caught up with them and they've realised, we need to do something
Well,
about this?
Mamazoulis has got an elbow injury. He's
That's
going to be
right.
out for a while.
Dislocated elbow, which doesn't heal in
But
2
that
weeks.
doesn't- But
Well, they haven't confirmed that.
Brandon Smith's knee doesn't heal in
Yeah.
2 weeks.
No,
either.
Brendan Smith, they think he's 6 weeks away from
Yeah.
playing. So
And look, the Roosters, I've talked to them, and they're negotiating, is how they put it.
yeah.
They're working out the terms of.
How does a Nick Politis negotiation go?
I've never had to do one.
Well,
of
they're not
those.
going to look after him, are they? South. They're going to try and
Oh,
get as much money out of them. If the Roosters want him gone so much, they're going to have to chip in more than they're probably willing to
so
do so. But I'm a conspiracy theorist.
and
and I think-
You think they're up to all Dom Young?
Well, if they're trying to move so quick, if they've gone to Dom Young and said go now, and they've gone to Brandon Smith and said go now, what are they up to?
is there a dude from the Northern Beaches driving
I
over
can't
there?
see Cherry Evans leaving mid-season.
what
I
about
can't.
what about your mate from?
There would be
Japan?
a riot at Brookvale.
Joey
Manu.
Manu?
What about your mate from Japan?
Well, obviously we reported a couple of weeks ago that he had some family issues that may require him not to see out his contract in Japan. But the conversation I had the other day was he's still planning on going to Japan, and that the family situation hasn't got to a point where he doesn't need to go or
It's
can't
a lot
go.
of cap to free up in a hurry, isn't it? Like it's because the Roosters were of the opinion when it came to Brandon Smith that if they were still in some sort of contention, they might want him back playing.
Yeah.
That was what they were trying to fob us off with earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he'd be there this year. I thought if they could have moved him on before the season started,
Yeah.
they would have.
If he wasn't injured, he would have,
yeah,
right?
they would have moved him on.
So we're spitballing here about the possibilities, and it feels like anything's a possibility. But just when you get a denial about something that you've got a scent about, the Roosters, for instance, or South, so they're clubs that you go, that denial means it's happening, or they're like other clubs that go, that denial means it's definitely off the table.
I'll give you context with this denial. I got a photo sent to me of Brandon signing something, signing a document in a cafe in Paddington
Could have been the bill,
on Monday. No, it wasn't a bill. It'd be a big bill if it was. Nice piece of paper.
A4 paper,
Yeah.
bill.
But
tax invoice.
I went to South Sydney and they said there was nothing happening yet. So
Yet is the word.
yeah, there's not a surprise that they wanted him before June 30, but they said the conversations haven't happened. Now, I got told maybe last night that Brandon Smith management was informed that he could leave immediately. So I wonder what's happened. Or maybe I got lied to. I don't know. But
What's your favourite conspiracy theory, by the way? You said you're a conspiracy theorist.
with rugby league conspiracies, yeah.
Okay, no, not like the ones in COVID where they said they would. Like,
No, I'm all for rugby league conspiracies, and I've got plenty of them.
Okay, and look, are you going to give us some, or
Yeah. What do you want? Well, I think
you think that's a?
I don't think the conspiracy theory that DCE ends up in.
Or I think on your feet. Then who? I mean, like who could it be? Who
we're spitballing here,
Yeah.
everyone. By the way, we've just found this out.
The problem
as
is
we record.
spitballing right now. We're recording this at 10:30 on
Yeah,
Wednesday, and by 12:30 on Wednesday, we could be spitballing things that we already know the answer to, and we look stupid.
no, well, that's why you timestamp it,
That's
and then
right.
people
Well,
understand.
timestamped. Well, you've had the Joey Manu conspiracy. What else have we
that
got?
was my immediate thought. More so than Cherry.
There's reasons for this, though. there's reasons for all of a sudden
I would've-
2 cap clears
David Fifita. That
in the
won't happen
space of
again.
a week.
That
I
won't
would
happen
have
again.
thought the Roosters didn't have a cap issue, or like they let so many players
Well,
go.
maybe they're just clearing the decks to start forward paying players for next year to make next year's salary cap a lot more enticing for someone.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
Ezra Mam, let's go to the Broncos. So how did this play out over the last few days? Was this always the plan for Michael Maguire? What you guys were hearing, especially up there in Brisbane, there would have been scuttle about this, that Ezra Mam was definitely going to come back through reserve grade, cup up there.
I started making calls about this a few days ago as to where he'd make his return to football. And while no one would confirm, 100% exactly what was going to happen, the information I was getting all along was that it would be a surprise if he was going to be in first grade, simply because of the way that Michael Maguire has, I guess, tried to implement a new culture or a better culture at the Broncos. Remember, they've been criticised for being rock stars, painted nails, whatever else, all that, shirts off, all that business. Maguire has really tried to put a new feel to that club, and a key part of it would be to earn your first grade spot, which Ezra Mam is now going to have to do, because the whole way that we saw him get booed, he got booed at Magic Round.
Yeah, because 80% of the crowd were
Sure.
other fans
But-
of other clubs.
But that's the sentiment towards Ezra Mam.
So just for context, sorry, Danny, the ban that he got was NRL imposed, and the Broncos just sat there and went, okay, that's the ban.
I think, actually, I can't be sure of that,
Yeah.
but I think that the NRL agreed to what it was.
Okay.
So, and the Broncos agreed as well. So, I mean, I don't know who came up with it first.
A lot of people were saying that how on earth did that happen, that type of ban for that,
well,
when the NRL should have
the
come
NRL
in and just
will fall
gone.
back on it and say, well, he didn't get that big a ban from, in the
Yeah.
in the
Judicial
real world,
process,
in the judicial process. So, I think he's very lucky to be playing football this year at all. I think he should have got the year.
But what I'm saying is that the Broncos have got that ban. Okay, now we'll deal with the consequences once he's back from that ban. Like whatever it was, we'll deal with it.
And they're not giving him they're not adding to his ban by not playing him. It's more a decision of saying to Ezra and saying to the outside world at the Broncos, you have to earn your place. And even he might be a rising superstar like he is, but the view is that Ezra Mam has to, show people how much he values a Broncos jumper, and he's going to have to earn his way back in.
And what was Maguire going to do? Drop Ben Hunt or Adam Reynolds for the sake of it?
No. Obviously, the disappointing performance on the weekend, but I think he's made the right call, Madge. Look,
This is the first right decision in the whole Mam situation, I think.
Yeah, well,
I think everything else has been
butchered it, didn't they?
Yeah, butchered is a good way of putting it. It's been really badly handled, and finally somebody has shown a bit of strength, shown a bit of backbone, and for the first time in this whole scenario,
I don't think it's about strength or backbone. But Madge is doing
I
it because
do,
he's not ready to play.
well, how do you know that? You're not there day to day.
Oh, come on, mate. You know what Madge is like.
He's first up after a long spell.
I
If he was
agree
coming
with that.
back as an injured player, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't coming back through Cup. So
100%. I don't think this is this is our culture. Look at us.
I
Look-
do.
No, I don't. I think that's
Well,
it's a.
What about
He's just not ready to play, Dan. He's just not ready to play.
What about Ben Hunt's been inconsistent at 5'8"?
But he hasn't played, Ezra.
Yeah, but I'm just saying Ben Hunt's been inconsistent. Like there would be a easy avenue to say, well, Ben Hunt hasn't been exactly perfect. We'll try him at hooker, and Ezra comes straight back in.
No,
he's going to cop it at every away ground he goes to.
he got
this
booed
year.
at Magic Round.
We just said
Were you
that.
just listening?
No, I wasn't. I was looking at my phone as something came up.
Are you with us?
Has he got those blocked ears again?
I do have blocked ears. My ears are they're not
Block
unblocked.
brain. Unblock your brain.
Sorry, I was just reading stuff on Brandon Smith because
Come
I'm
back
angry
to us
right
here.
now.
I know you're angry. It's all right. Just let it
Sound
go.
angry, Chad.
Let it
always
go.
angry.
Anna and Elsa. Let it go. Just
Saying that
It's
this morning.
done.
Okay.
it's
Breathe out.
DUN.
We
Done.
don't like getting beaten. In
I
this
know you
game,
don't.
Okay.
It happens. Adam Reynolds. So there's reports over the weekend that there's going to be a mini cap clear out to ensure that Adam Reynolds, if he wants to, can continue at round about the money that he's on. Whether or not his body is in a position at the end of this season, there's still a lot of footy to be played, is in the right frame to be able to get through another season of NRL is another thing. But do the Broncos want him?
Yeah, they want him. Yeah, they do. It's just the right price, right?
What's the price, Chammy? What do you reckon?
I don't know what that price is. What do you think he's worth?
What's he on now, GM?
Good question. I think he's on 6, is he? I actually don't know.
It
I actually
wasn't
don't
the
know,
heights of
but-
his deal.
No. But I think there's a meeting on Thursday with his management and the Broncos. So depending on how that plays out, will shape the narrative. I think there's a few clubs thinking if you want, his preference is to stay in Brisbane. Brisbane want to keep him. Can they get a deal done? I think it will happen. But if it doesn't, there'll be a few clubs thinking, do we not? Do we sign him for a year? And
Well, here's the thing, GM. Tell me this. You always talk about the NRL notional value. So if he gets no other offers at the type of money that he's on this season, but Broncos go 350 to hang around for another year and play again, are they allowed to do that? Or, like what I'm saying is, would a player ever have to retire because his value is considered too low by the NRL and they can't register him?
too high by the NRL.
Yeah, but say, no, you can't register him at 350, he's 600, and the Broncos go, well, we can't put that in our cap because we're full.
No, because what will happen is that the manager will go back to the NRL and say, we've got 3 offers from 3 clubs, they're at 350, you're valuing him at 600, he can't play. So the NRL will then lower their value.
Oh,
right?
okay, so they can do that.
Because what will happen is the Broncos, if they offer him 350, means that, I don't know, throw any other clubs in Sydney, they turn around and say, oh, we'll give you 550. So he'll have a decision to make then.
Would Adam Reynolds want to do that and uproot his family again and do that?
The NRL won't value Adam Reynolds as high. They've shown in the past that if you're an older player, an aging player, they value a lot less to try and help you stay at that club.
When Cherry Evans was being valued, was around coming out of Manly, they were telling me it was around about 300 to 400 max.
Don't know.
That's what I was told. I'm just saying that's what I was told.
Yeah. I remember you reported
which is
that
low. Which is
low, yeah. But I think that's designed to try and help players and clubs make sure they finish it.
Yeah, one of the same clubs.
Finish their clubs.
Dave Fifita doesn't appear to be value for money at the moment. Just before we go to a break here on the Journos, because it spins in, because it's southeast Queensland as well. Was a Bronco, went to Gold Coast, big money, nearly went to the Roosters, turned around, said no. It feels like Tino spoke this week and he said, I'm just trying to help my mate because obviously there's some on-field stuff going on, but there's a bit going on off-field, which we don't know and probably won't know at the moment because he's going to keep it to himself, Dave Fifita, and those around him, which is fair enough. But these are the things where you feel like, you can go at a player because he's underperforming, but what else is going on in life? And that's the hard thing for you, Journos, to try and find out sometimes, I guess.
Well, we don't know if there's... I'm not close to... I'm not close enough to David Fifita to say I know what's going on in his personal life. I can tell you what's going on in his football life. There are a number of issues. Firstly, the one which is being promoted everywhere is this ankle problem he's got. He had ankle surgery in the off-season, and suddenly it's flared up again, or the Titans feel like he needs to have a look at it because he's seeing specialists about it. It might even be today. And we're being told he's out indefinitely. We'll see how that all pans out. Beneath that, there are a couple of other things that went on. Now, there was a story going around which I had denied by the Titans that he wanted to play on the left-hand side of the field and went up to Des and said that. And Des is supposed to have said, well, no, you can play reserve grade.
Because Bo Fermor's flying there.
And is going really well on that side. And that may or may not be correct. I heard it, Des and the Titans denied it to me when I went to them. And then I went back with further information that I was then told that teammates are questioning his commitment. Now, whether that ties in with the story about which side of the field he wants to play on, I'm not 100% sure. But that seems to me to be a bigger issue if that's correct. And if you're having your level of performance or commitment questioned by your teammates, and Tino didn't really deny any of that at a media conference the other day. He said he's got things he's got to deal with, and apparently this is just I haven't heard this firsthand that the playing group are supposed to have supported the decision for him not to play first grade. I haven't heard that directly, but I've heard that reported.
Player power seems to be the flavour of the month, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About who
You
team
raising
selection.
your eyebrows at
No,
some
no,
of this?
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. And look,
I'm not as across it as you
yeah,
are.
that's what I've heard. Now, whether it eventually comes out about the commitment stuff, I don't know. But that's what's been told to me. And yeah, the ankle stuff, yeah, that seems to be real. But we'll find out exactly how real that is down the track.
A little story that I'm going to spin into a rugby league yarn out of Melbourne, everyone's favourite industry, the AFL industry. Isn't there competition between NRL and AFL for the rest of time? Kane Cornes has been banned by a club. Now, Kane Cornes is a guy that speaks his mind when he analyses AFL footy, and he's been really...
What's the equivalent of for our NRL fans? Like, who would he be?
Jamie? No.
Like, he's a former...
Oh, he'd feel at home on that 360 panel, I
Right.
reckon.
Brave.
Yeah, just like, he goes really hard. Like, there's probably no one like him. Like someone who will just definitively
Goes players?
Kenty,
Right.
basically. Like, just goes and because he's a former player, he
Yeah.
feels that he can say, and he analyses games really, really well. Anyway, he's had a massive crack at North Melbourne, how they're going about it. A couple of their players, North
You were on
Melbourne,
Kenty's podcast the other day too. weren't
yeah,
you?
filling in for a mate.
How was that?
Yeah, good, interesting. You want to go into it, or
I'm just curious.
yeah, didn't you listen? Can't believe you didn't
I
listen.
I did listen. Yeah.
No, it was-
Good podcast.
It was interesting.
In the hot seat.
I was in the hot seat. Sorry, back to the issue at hand. So, Kane Cornes got banned by North Melbourne.
Yep.
He said, and Channel 7, I think, by extension.
He's a 7 commentator, isn't he?
He's a 7 commentator.
yeah.
So, have you guys ever been either banned directly or as a consequence of someone in your stable doing wrong by the club, in the eyes of the club, that you found it hard to get interviews with players? You've been through a few times the Ben Teo situation at South,
I
over.
was never directly banned, but it was more just everybody was off me.
Yeah, you weren't hero at Redfern for a while there.
And Ben had a good crack at me on air and called me a grub and whatever else, and that's all fine. I've been banned by the Bulldogs back in the day.
Well, look at you now, Bulldog Dan. It's all turned around, hasn't
I'm
it?
trying to remember. I can't remember what story it was for. It could have been Sonny Bill stuff.
Yep.
And I do remember our chief of staff at the time wanted to do a story on why I was banned. So my now boss, Chris Hodgkinson, was sent down to interview Steve Folkes at a press conference.
Oh, the throw-off Journo. Yeah, send him down because our guy
they
can't
wouldn't
go.
talk to me.
Yeah,
And poor old Hodgie, he didn't want to go
yeah,
because he's the world's nicest guy, and he's not really big on confrontation.
yeah.
And he had to go and ask folks why Weidler's banned from. And
Did he wear like an ice hockey
I don't
goaltender's
know.
outfit just to just to protect
I
himself?
think Folkes' reply was the late great Steve Folkes' reply was he knows why.
That's all you needed. That's the grab you needed.
So anyway, that didn't go so well for us. I've been banned by other clubs. I'll tell you, I get you fall out with individuals as well. Like
Yeah.
I remember years ago, the John Hopoate story, right? And I was pretty heavy on the reporting of all that.
The West Tigers one.
West Tigers, laughing at it in videos and like
Yep.
Terry Lamb being the coach. Anyway, I fell out with Hopper, as you could imagine, over that story.
Mm.
And years later, I needed to speak to Hopper for a story because I think it was to do with his son, Will.
Mm.
And there was something going, I can't remember exactly what was going on, but we needed Hopper for a story. And the work said to me, we need to speak to John Hopoate. Good luck. I haven't talked to him for quite a long time. And I thought, how am I going to get Hopper to speak to us?
Yeah.
So I thought, do I know any mutual friends? So I rang a friend of mine, John Ibrahim.
Mm.
I said, John, I know you're mates with Hopper, and I know you're a person of some influence around the place. Do you think you could somehow bring us back together? He said, it won't be a problem. I'm good friends with Hopper. Will not be an issue. Give me 5 minutes. So about an hour later, he rings back. He says, geez, you've really annoyed that bloke, haven't you? He said, he's not going to talk to you. I said, oh, okay. Can you try one more time? Because we need him for a yarn and we're running. And he rang him back and he said, all right, Hopper has agreed. he's agreed as a favour to him to call you and have a chat. I said, I need him on camera.
Geez, you must be tight with the King of the Cross, by the way.
I'm not going. He's a mate of mine.
Yeah.
And Hopper, I was on a phone call and I got this number that came up on my phone. And I went through. I'd never check voice messages. I checked the voice message. This is John Hopoate. I've made my phone call to you. I've done what I've been asked to do. Goodbye.
On your hop.
I thought, oh. And look, eventually I rang him back and I managed to get a chat with him. So
Yeah.
I don't think we're close now by any stretch, but I think we got the interview at the time and, we got the story that we needed. So, sometimes you fall out and you've got to find a way back somehow.
Who makes that step towards reconciliation?
Well, look, I often fall out with clubs to do with coaches or whatever, and the coach will move on or something, or like you have problems at a place and the coach will get sacked, and then you're welcome again or the CEO, there'll be a new CEO, or a player will move clubs, or often there's no reconciliation. I've had situations where people have wanted to have mediation with me over things and talks, and I can tell you that mediation doesn't really work.
No, it's their way of saying, I was right.
Yeah,
you were wrong. Apologise, and we can all move on.
Yeah, it doesn't. And look, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to apologise. And but quite often there is no way back.
Chammy at the moment in this episode is like a 15-year-old girl who's been at school all day and she's had boy troubles.
I'm dealing with things. I'm texting people. I'm texting Blake Solly.
So does this lead to possibly a banning order?
No, he claims that nothing happened. He claims that when I rang him yesterday with the information that Brandon was leaving, he said there was no conversations. In the last 24 hours, the Roosters have come to the party. So...
Here we go. Have you had a banning order or like a mass fallout, no talkies? Well, it's Madge. You've explained that.
There was this girl in high school.
Can I just say, Hopper, if you're listening to this, I'd like to talk to you again sometime soon.
And can I just say, that would be the $1 million to one shot, $1 million to one shot that John Hopoate is listening to a Journos podcast.
You never know.
Very surprised. Very, very surprised.
He ain't listening, bro.
One of his mates might be.
Yeah.
Unless they clip this up on socials and put it on socials and it gets sent to him by his mates, he ain't listening.
Lehigh, mate.
I'll send it to John.
Or Will might. Who knows? Anyway.
We'll get him on the pod next week because I've contributed nothing.
You have contributed nothing. Danny, you went further with your story. So you've got a denial from PVL that the NRL has been dictating to broadcasters. Not dictating, but wanting to know what they're talking about on various shows, such as 100% Footy.
Yeah, there's no denying that. But Peter V'landys was saying that people are putting these sort of stories out so it doesn't become a story, so that the NRL doesn't somehow try and influence or show, because it's a very sensitive time in the media world at the moment.
Yeah, because
the NRL want to start negotiations on a however million, billion, whatever deal it's going to be. So it's a sensitive time for people at obviously at Nine, people at Fox. There's big upheavals going on in the media at the moment. There's change of ownership. So, and I think there's pressure on the NRL because they want this big deal that's going to match the AFL or be better, and it's not that easy to do.
I think they want $600 million a year, so about $3 billion, which is quite a significant uplift.
How much do you think it is? I
think they want $3 billion.
Wow.
How many games in a season?
That's a lot.
I think I'm a scientist.
Scientist or a mathematician, maybe.
That's a lot of money per game.
So
that way.
It is.
I think it's a tense atmosphere, and you know what? The NRL is sensitive to criticism.
All sporting bodies are.
The NRL is sensitive to criticism.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Well, don't you think?
Yeah.
You can write 350 good stories, and you write a negative one, and that's the one they remember.
Yeah.
They are. And I don't think they believe in any publicity is good publicity. They get offended with a few things. They are sensitive, but...
And they watch everything.
They
monitor
everything,
and they try and put their stamp on everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you you've got to, but you can't gag people, you can't silence people, and the moment that happens, it's a negative for everybody.
Yeah, do you have that, Chammy, at all, that you're, like, you do your analysis pieces and just sometimes the odd opinion piece, very rarely, but do you ever cop blowback from when you've...
No, well, the other day there was a bit of, with the NRL you're talking about, the other day the NRL were, when we broke that the Bears were coming back, that the ARL Commission had approved the WA proposal. I rang the NRL late, might have been Tuesday night. I rang them and I said, I'm aware of the Commission has approved this. Panic stations, they were not wanting me to write the story. And I said, it's a story every day of the week. It's not my responsibility to protect the deal. Because their view was, if you write this story, it's going to sabotage the deal.
And sometimes you'll play ball a bit, right?
Yeah, we will. And I said to you, well, it's late at night. I'm giving you the heads up that tomorrow morning, do what you have to do, but in the morning I'm breaking the story on the Today Show. And I said, because they were meeting with the clubs at 8 a.m, they were blowing up the lugs. They didn't want the story out. And at the end of the day, mate, I don't want the deal to fall over, but it's not my responsibility. They have to be able to play this out.
If the deal is that delicate, that a bloke like you or me is going to scuttle it, well, it can't be much of a deal.
No.
Let's be honest.
No. So that's what happened. I went with it the next morning, 8:30 a.m. We went with the story on the Today Show, and they weren't happy, but I gave them warning that it was coming. So, yeah. Look, it happens. But they're more sensitive around football issues, I find. Like bagging the bunker or bagging the refs or bagging the rules. They get very sensitive about that sort of stuff.
Well, I don't think they like the first segment of 100% Footy on Monday night, where Gus and Gal and Cameron Smith had a very heated discussion. More Gus, pointing out some things about the way the Melbourne-Canberra game ended and the penalties and that sort. And that, I don't think they enjoyed that 10 minutes of television. Put it that way. And but that's the job of someone like Gus or Cameron Smith or Gal, is to have strong opinions and create opinions and get people talking. And the minute the NRL, get their if they ever got their hands on those sort of people and stop them from doing that, we've got a major problem.
Speaking of Perth Bears, so announced Thursday, we're hearing.
Yep.
I don't want to get you in trouble with the NRL here for giving news ahead of time, but apparently PVL and Andrew Abdo are heading west for the announcement.
Yep, that's right. It's going. I think it'll be Thursday.
Who's going to be coach, you reckon? Sam Burgess' name popped up over the weekend.
Yeah, it did. I still think it's going to be Brad Arthur. Nothing's done yet, but I think that their preference is Brad Arthur, Sam Burgess. I think I can understand.
So you say they, Chammy. Talk us through that, their preference.
The NRL. But the NRL also need to go through the process of appointing a board. And that's
James Bracey, board member.
Hopefully. It'd be
What
great
about
to see
you?
James Bracey on
Dipping
the board.
his name in it. Did you give him fair warning that you're going to put his name in the paper and say he should be a board member?
Do you think I
course
would
he did.
not tell James Bracey? I may be mentioning him in my column on the weekend.
Could be a John Hopoate situation where you rang him and he didn't get back to you.
James
And you just went
Bracey and
with it.
John Hopoate do not belong in the same sentence.
Well, they live in the same area.
Do they?
They do.
Well, maybe they can catch up for coffee
Exactly.
because I'm not going to be.
Brace. Board member Brace. Yeah. Good on.
I hope so.
Yeah, look,
Well, I think Sam wants it. Sam's desperate for it.
I
I
spoke
think the
to him,
NRL
yeah.
see merit in it. Yeah, Danny spoke to him. You quoted him on the weekend, but has he got the experience to do? And the thing that Brad has on his side. Now, I can understand why people think that Sam, he has this aura about him and he'll attract
Charisma.
some. Yeah, he'll be good for it. But also, they need to. It's not. He hasn't disgraced himself in England, but he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. He's an inexperienced coach. I think he'll add merit. I think there's merit to the whole him being attraction, but Brad's built a club from the ground up. He did it at Parramatta. They were spooners. They were hopeless. They had lost players. So the one thing that you have to say about Brad is his strength is turning low range players, minimum wage players into $600,000-$700,000 footballers. Everyone that played at Parramatta became better under Brad Arthur. They may have reached the ceiling, but they all became, Gutho, Mitchell included, they all came as products that developed under Brad.
Jamie, do you think so? The line of criticism I hear of Sam Burgess is not that he hasn't got the charisma or he's not going to be a good coach. It's that Brad, or it's not really criticism of Sam, I guess. It's just that Brad has got a better pathway understanding, and I don't know. I think that's going to matter when they talk
huge.
about Perth.
Yeah,
And I think
Absolutely
that's going to be important in their decision making process. So I think when it comes down to it, forget all the bells and whistles of all developing. the pathways is going to be really important in that area.
I think even Joel Gould wrote on the weekend that he quoted Wayne Bennett about Burgess and said that he doesn't think Burgess is a startup franchise coach. He has a very high opinion of him as a coach, but he probably doesn't think that suits his skill set. So
there's other factors at play when you go into a market like that you have to be good with the corporates, good with the media, good
Sam
with the
ticks those
pathways.
boxes.
yes, Sam ticks those boxes. I don't know if Brad, is there other stronger candidates in rugby league who could do that? But you're not going to get them. You're not going to get your Bellyaches or your Bennetts or your Rickies and your Robbos.
I think
Of the coaches available, Brad ticks the most boxes, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he'd be a good choice.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a good choice, and you know what? He's a good man too. Like I think that's he's a good solid guy, and I think that's going to matter in terms of how he fits into the community, how he's perceived over there, because it's going to be a hard sell. I mean, I'd be shocked if they're given an easy run in the media.
They won't be because Channel 7
it's a Channel 7 state.
paper in town.
Yeah, I spoke to someone over there about this, and because it is so it's a one paper town.
Yep.
Channel 7 and Channel 9 go at each other.
Well,
in the news.
7 dominate there.
And 7
But
own the paper.
But it's
Do they?
changed
Yeah.
over there. Yeah, 7, the West Australian is owned by
Right.
the same mob. But it's changed over there that people, because of things like this that we're sitting on here, podcasts, and being able to,
Yep.
you can shape your narrative a bit easier than you could 15 years ago.
That's interesting,
Over there.
yeah.
And people are a little over being dictated to, they're just being fed the whole time West Coast Eagles and Fremantle Dockers.
Gotcha.
It is the biggest show in town.
Yeah.
But there is an opportunity, if you do it smartly, to get your message out there and, be part of the conversation in town.
I think that Sam Burgess would be a greater media attraction and a more charismatic person than Brad Arthur, but I think that Brad Arthur will be good in other areas. So I don't think they'd lose too much by in the charisma and area.
Games that shape the narrative, well, they all do, don't they?
I never look at this.
All do. But, I mean, you'll be watching your new favourite team, Bulldog Danny over here. Raiders, Dogs, second v first.
How good.
Saturday Arvo. It's on Triple M. It's a Triple M game on Saturday afternoon, so no doubt if
I'll be listening on Triple M.
Yeah, I will be too.
Are you calling that, Chammy? Or?
No, I won't be there, unfortunately. I'll be doing the pre-game show, Saturday Scrum.
Yep.
Okay, I'll listen to that as well.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate the support.
I always listen. That's a great game. That's a great, and
Could you imagine 2 years ago if I said
No.
to you, Raiders, Dogs? I'm honestly, I'll be watching my Supercoach players, and that is it.
2 years ago it would have been a paint dry game, wouldn't it? You'd rather watch paint dry.
Honestly,
But I mean, now
switched on and watched the what's that guy's name? Kane Corn or something.
Kane Corns.
Listen to his
I'm
commentary.
glad he's with us a little bit in the podcast. He remembered his name, so
No, I'm joking. I know Kane Corns. He's a good fella.
is he?
Sorry.
Actually, no, I don't know. Yeah, good game. Can't wait. Can't wait for
Fantastic
this
game.
one. I think it's going to be an absolute ripper. I can't believe the Raiders what they're doing. I'm more impressed with the Raiders than what the Bulldogs are doing.
It's incredible.
I thought the Bulldogs would go close to make. Well, I tipped them to make the grand final. I thought the Raiders would be bottom two.
I don't know if you've talked to
Bottom
anyone
two,
from. I don't know if
Well, I
you've talked
thought
to
so.
anyone from Canberra, but are they of the feeling that, a bit like the Labor Party after the weekend, we knew this was going to happen, or are they? Oh, even this is surprising.
I think this surprised them as well. So I had the privilege of being in the camp with them in Vegas to see what they were all about. And
What was that like, Chammy? What were
It
they
was
like?
cool. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Mm.
I didn't walk away thinking this team's going to be a force this year. Like, no disrespect to them. I looked around and some of the guys, you're like, who's that? Who's that? Like, it's a very young and inexperienced team. I did the same thing 12 months earlier with the Roosters, and I left that Roosters camp feeling like, yeah, we're going to win the comp here.
Where?
Yeah, I did. I felt like I was, I'd give me the Roosters jersey on, and I felt like that team was building to a premiership. Whereas I left the Raiders, great blokes. I just felt like, this is a rebuild phase here.
How good were they to deal with in Vegas? Like,
Geez,
just,
you're a good judge then, champion.
Yeah, all over it.
they were so they were welcoming. They were media friendly in
Great,
Vegas.
especially with the awkwardness of what happened beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
When we broke the story about Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies
I keep
belting each other
I keep
with
texting
inflatable
Hudson.
baseball bats.
I keep texting Hudson Young. I call him Babe Ruth. I don't think he gets it. Maybe he does. He's just
He probably thinks you're hitting on him. Hey, babe.
Babe Ruth.
Hasn't that form line out of that the first game of the season in Vegas stood up pretty well? Where we thought the Warriors were hopeless,
Yep.
and they were going to finish with the spoon.
Yep.
They've got it together.
Incredibly.
And Canberra obviously have springboard off the back
Yeah.
of that and played.
You know what? Well, I know we're talking about the game, but how good is it to see different teams
Yeah.
dominating? And
It's such an open comp.
It
with
is
Penrith falling
such,
off.
It's such it's such a good comp.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm like, it's different people we're dealing with, different heroes we're seeing. It's fantastic.